Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
But
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies.
Right.
Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now.
Hello. I'm not getting anything. Hello, are you there? Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. Just a brief message from your friends at Sober, Not Mature. We had some technical difficulties with this episode, and you'll notice a clicking sound in the first probably 20 minutes of the episode, but I promise after that it clears up. So bear with us and enjoy the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to a brand new episode of Sober, Not Mature. And once again, it's I don't know about you here or there, Mike, but yet again, another beautiful Friday night here. So,
yeah, it's pretty damn nice here in the land of Cleve, too.
And you know what? I'm in a great mood again tonight. And guess what?
What?
I questioned it again.
Well, good for you.
I know, at least I'm consistent. But, you know, here's the thing. I think I figured it out because this week was probably the longest short week I've had in a long time. And, you know, just, I don't know, kind of a quick wrap up of what happened last week, the whole work thing and the bonus thing, and thought about things over the weekend and actually emailed my boss. And we had to do meetings with our representatives. And I thought about some things from my review from last year. So they were like goals that we had. Right. Like 3-month or 6-month goals and yearly goals. So I dug those back out, and the bonus program was one of them. So put together this nice email. I'm like, hey, let's talk about this. And, you know, I was honest with him. I was open with him and told him, you know, obviously that it, basically bummed me out about the bonus, the why behind it, all those sort of things. And
sure.
I was honest with him too, and I said that you know, one of the reasons I didn't want to talk about it last week is because I told him my head wasn't in the right place, you know. So you know, I said I took the weekend and thought about it, and here's what it is. But nothing changed with him. Nothing changed on his end. So that part of it's not gonna change. But you know, I was able to sit down and at least talk through it. And, you know, so I feel better about that and the way I handled it. Plus I had a phone interview with that company on Tuesday on my way back from Mom's. Went well.
Good.
You know, so it wasn't really a phone interview. It was more of a, you know, kind of an introductory thing, but they're not necessarily like immediately looking for somebody. But what was cool was, you know, he's like, based on, you know, your experience. And I mean, actually was really, you know, talking me up based on my work experience. And I was like, cool. You know, so he's like, you're on my radar. We're going to look at this. We're going to talk to the owner and all this different stuff. So it was good. It was a good conversation. And, you know, but man, yeah, it was weird, you know, weird conversation, but at least now I have some direction, and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I know what I don't want to do now for sure. And I didn't overreact, and I took my time, and, you know, I know. Just completely 100%, you know, still, you know, 12 years and what, almost, 12 years and a couple of weeks later, almost 2 months later now, I haven't, in that part of it hasn't really changed. So I still need to get myself checked every once in a while, but it's all right. Progress, I guess, is what they say.
Yeah, that's it, man. Progress, not perfection.
It's not the easiest thing in the world to always swallow, but hey, you know what? It worked, so it's all good. But yeah, so I've actually got a list. I'm going to go through all the stats real quick too, but I've got a list of things, and just so everyone knows, because I listen back and I jump into some of the old episodes every once in a while. And I think I mentioned that before. A couple of reasons. Every once in a while, I picked out things that we missed or things that we talked about or want to expand on more. And that's where I've gotten some of the ideas as we go along.
All right.
But sometimes I listen. I'm like, man, I run my mouth a lot, which I know. So my first thing was this week, just so everyone knows, I always make this list. So I felt like, okay, part of the reason that I run my mouth so much is I almost have, a leg up a little bit because I have this list. But the thing is I sent Mike a text and I'm like, okay, here's what I can do. I make this list every week. I can give it to you ahead of time if you want. And then, we'll literally be on the same page. And your answer was?
No, I want to wing it so I don't have time to make up lies.
Yeah, and that was funny. It made me laugh. I figured you would say you wanted to wing it, but I wanted to ask because that's the polite thing to do. But on top of that too, when you said you didn't have time to think up lies, then I got done with the text and I'm like, well, at least one of us gets to lie, so I guess it's me.
Right.
But the other thing too, and what I told Mike was. And this is the absolute fact. I mean, granted, when I'm writing down some of these things, they're things that either suggestions we got, and it's impossible, even if I think about something or it's a suggestion, not to have a thought about it. But the cool part is that, I mean, 9 times out of 10, I always ask you first. I let you, lead it because then, our conversation goes in a direction, based on we get to play off each other what we're talking about. Sometimes it goes into a completely different direction. Or what I thought was going to be a 3-minute conversation we talk about for 25 minutes. So
right.
I guess if it's not broken, as they say, don't fix it. So I guess we'll keep doing things as we do for now.
Absolutely.
Oh, the only other thing though. So flip your lighter up and down right now, real quick.
Say what now? My lighter?
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm talking too long, okay. And you want to interrupt me, flip your lighter. That'll be my cue. That'll be it. Okay. Because I told you to
shut the fuck up.
What's that?
How about if I just tell you to shut the fuck up?
Well, that would work too. I was just trying. For whatever reason, I was trying to be subtle, but no, I like the other one. I like the other way better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just tell me to shut the fuck up. All right, so I'm not going to shut the fuck up now because I got some stats for us, okay?
All right, lay it on us.
All right, so followers. We have increased followers by 94 people this week following us on Instagram. So we're at right now 966 people on Instagram right now for followers.
Damn.
I know.
Up on the man.
I know. And our friend in California, I was actually texting back and forth with her, messaging back and forth with her a little bit. I'll get into that later, but yeah, she said the same thing. But now, as far as the individual plays of the podcast, we're up. We had an increase of 117 last week. This week is 118. So now we're up to 810 plays, individual plays on the podcast. So
cool.
Yeah. Now, number 1 episode is episode 13. So 2 episodes ago, obviously not last week, but the week before. And then still the number 2 episode is yours. Number 1's at 79 plays. The episode 3, which is yours, is 71. Our Absolute Vodka Bottle episode 10. That is number 3 at 65. Episode 4, which is our first 30 days, is 64. And my episode actually for the first time made the top 5. I'm at 62 plays on mine.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm at number 5. But the funny part was, and I'm sure you saw it on our Facebook page, but I listened to your episode again, not the night before. And seriously, I mean, I hope everyone, if I don't care if you, well, I do. Obviously, I care if you listen to other episodes, but in what I put on Instagram, and obviously you posted on Facebook too, I meant Mike's got a very good story, very wide range, and a lot of ups and downs, I guess. And he did a great job of not only explaining all of that, but how getting into the Keating Center and the AA program, and he talks a little bit about that stuff too. But it's a really good episode, and it made more sense to me now. And I sat there and listened to it, and obviously, but I think I only listened to it one time after that when I was reviewing it. So by all means, go back and listen to it, because there's a lot of things that mine was short and yours was actually more detailed than mine. But a lot of the things we're talking about, now, really, if people have that base, it's kind of like listening to anything else, like a series. I mean, we are building on things.
Right.
So go back to episode 3. You're gonna be able to figure out what's happening now in episode 15.
Right.
But no, I mean, seriously, good episode, and I not only understand it, but I'm extremely happy for just us in general that episode is that popular, because it's you do a great job of doing that. So it's
just
cool to see that.
Drunk telling his story, man.
I know, but that's the point, and that's the whole point with it. So demographics, pretty simple. Our female population is dropping a little bit, only because the male population is increasing. So 38% men and 56% women. But one way or the other, I mean, we're getting obviously a wider variety of people. And the other thing too, which is interesting that I noticed, is to begin with, Spotify was like the main place that people were listening. And now it's almost, I don't want to say a half and half, but there's almost the same percentage of people listening on Apple Podcasts as Spotify, which is kind of, I don't know why. I'm not sure why Apple Podcasts popped up in popularity, but it doesn't really matter. Just little things like that. I don't know. As I see them, they're kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, we've had in my opinion, had a hell of a couple of weeks, as far as activity goes. Oh, and real quick, for anyone because we've been getting a lot of people based on current posts, past posts, and things like that on Instagram, a lot of likes and comments and that sort of thing. It's not at the point where it's like overwhelming to manage, but it is getting busier for me, to manage those things. So a couple of different things. If you listen and you like something, or if you've commented on something, and either if I miss it and I don't react to it or comment, no offense, it's just that I missed it, and we are getting quite a bit of activity. So a lot of times they'll take some of those comments and kick them down. But I do see them, and I notice them. I get the notifications. I try to pop in when I can. But I just want to let people know that we're not ignoring them. And I've had some conversations with people, and a couple of different people have commented on a lot of things, which is wonderful. So keep doing that. I just want people to know that if I miss something, or if we miss something, it's not on purpose. We see them all, but every once in a while, life gets in the way too. This is a full-time thought for us, but a part-time gig. So
absolutely.
All right. So on that same note, there was an individual, and speaking of going back and like listening to other episodes, she had mentioned, and I remember having the thought in my head and asking about when either one of us started to drink alcoholically. And I think your answer was, like right away. And that's when you had said that when you were like 15 or something like that, that you pretty much knew. Because she had said that we didn't answer it all together. I don't think maybe I answered that question. So I'm going to answer that quick, but then she had another question that went along with that. So for me, two things. I know now that from the first time that I ever drank anything, whether it was a sip of beer or, sneaking a drink, or the first time I actually got loaded and threw up, I never drank normally, because and for me, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I hated the taste of beer and alcohol. I didn't like it, but everyone talks about that effect, and I didn't realize it right away. But so I didn't consciously say I felt this way, so I want more. But again, so much of what I went through and how I am is just things happen I mean, subconsciously without me even knowing it. To this day, I'm the same way.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't know what I'm thinking and I don't know what I'm feeling, So I don't know when I started drinking alcoholically, but what I do know is that before I was 21, when I was in college and then moving into that 21-year-old area, by the time I was actually legal to drink, there was plenty of circumstances where I'd pass out someplace, drank too much, showed up late for work, never drank at work at that time, and then I got my DUI in 94, so I would have been 24 area.
All right.
So at that time, I was, once again, I know for a fact, I don't know if I was an alcoholic, I don't know, but I know I had a problem. And I think at that moment, at an absolute minimum, I can put a mark on that and say, I know I was drinking alcoholically at that point, and
Right.
it never got any better.
Mhm.
So from 94 to 2010, for the next 16 years, if nothing else, I drank problematically at a minimum, but easily looking back now, I drank alcoholically from that point forward. So that led into the second part of the question, though, because she asked if, let me just read it. She said, do you think a normie can progress into an alcoholic? And she said,
Mhm.
basically, can a normal person become an alcoholic just by drinking alcoholically? And I have an answer, but I'll let you run first. Or I have a thought, let me put it that way, but I'll let you run with that thought first.
Well, I'm going to go to the source. The big book talks about heavy drinkers. And I've run into several of them in my life. Basically what the big book says is, people are heavy drinkers. They're normies. They're not alcoholics. They're heavy drinkers and they start showing the signs of alcoholism and they start running into problems that alcoholics run into. But given sufficient reason, they can stop on their own. And they do. Life, they get that DUI. They get fired from their job because of their drinking and they stop. Not me, man. Okay, I got fired from a job. Cool. It's an excuse to drink more. I don't have to go to work today. I can get drunk all day long. Yeah, so that's my. No, normie. I don't think I can become an alcoholic. They can be a heavy drinker and show all the signs, but they could stop on their own. And a real alcoholic, in my opinion, can't. I couldn't. I could not stop on my own. I needed program. I needed other drunks to help me, and I needed a power greater than myself. That's my answer.
Okay. And I agree with that. And just in like the middle of that, you cut out a little bit, but I think what you were, basically saying is a normie can stop on a dime. You couldn't, and then it came in where we can hear you again, but you cut out just a little bit there. But I thought that's important because, the whole explanation about the big book, I didn't think about that quite honestly, but yeah, and I've known people in my life that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be, friends or acquaintances or anything like that. I've known people that can do that and have that consequence.
Right.
Or people that I knew, as they say back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and they straightened themselves out and they just went through a phase, if you want to call it that. Now,
Right.
the other step, and what I've heard, and I think from a physical standpoint, because there is the whole point of drinking alcoholically, then becoming usually mentally addicted, but then becoming physically addicted. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the point. That's the other point that I've heard, is that sooner or later, it's the mindset of you can't turn a pickle back into a cucumber. Once
Right.
it's happened, once you cross that physical line, and I think that's talked about in the big book too, or maybe in the doctor's opinion. If I could be wrong on that part too, but I thought that was brought up at some point in there, or I've read it or heard it or heard somebody talk about it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's been always my understanding that you can take somebody now, anyone that we know, and if they drank long enough, hard enough, and for enough time,
Mm-hmm.
and enough substance, that they're going to physically their body's going to become addicted.
Right.
So I think the easy answer is, for both of those even tied together, I think it is a two-part question, but I think the easy answer is yes. I think that a normie can, people that are normies. Given again, like you said, that right circumstance, that they drink too much. But because they call us, you and I, admittedly are real alcoholics, right? I mean,
Right.
I know, because we're, like you just said, getting to that point where, and that's one of the, probably on a dozen pamphlets that we've looked at, where people say that, it's like, okay, when this happens, do you know what's going to happen next? I mean, I may not end up on a street corner or passed out in a bush or something like that, but yeah, it got to the point where in a bush.
Bush, field, street corners, alleyways, you got it. Doorways, all of them.
Yeah. And I talked about the story of blacking out, when I was at school, and I don't know how I got home, and again, things like that. I mean, God only knows what could have happened. So yeah, but I do, and I agree wholeheartedly with the big book version, and I know for a fact, worst case scenario, regardless of when it happened for me, I know what I am now, and as we always say, and what was always taught, that not necessarily, we are what we are, whether we can say we're happy to be alcoholics or not, at least we know we are, and we're part of the solution. So
right.
That would that'd be the easy one, right?
Right. I mean, okay. So, I mean, you don't have experience with this. I do. Okay. Heroin, right? Opiates. Yes, you become physically addicted. Yes, you get sick if you don't have them. You get physically sick. And you can almost say there's a difference between, there isn't. You can almost say there's a difference between opiate addiction and alcohol addiction. It's an obsession of the mind. It really is. I mean, it's, you're trying to feel good all the time, man. I've said it before. Okay, you're addicted to opiates. Yes, you're going to get physically sick if you don't put opiates in you. And it's the selfish and self-centered. I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to get sick. So I'm going to keep doing it. And then I get obsessed with, I don't want to get sick. And it's the same with the alcohol, man. I don't want to be hungover. I got to drink more. It's the same. It's the obsession of being obsessed with oneself. And yes, you can be a normie and be obsessed with yourself. Absolutely. But an alcoholic and a true junkie are different. I think a normal person, and I'm speaking because I'm not a normal person, I've just been around normal people. Again, given that line that they come up to, that their life is completely falling apart, they will stop. They will do what they have to do to stop. I didn't. I knew I was an alcoholic. I knew my life was falling apart, and I could not stop drinking. I could not stop using. I couldn't. Not on my own. So I think that's the difference. Again, it comes down to that out of the big book. Given sufficient reason, they can stop on their own. I had tons of reasons to stop drinking and using, and I couldn't. I wanted to. I wanted to stop. I did not want to live my life that way anymore, and I couldn't stop. I had to keep going, and I didn't know why. Because I'm an alcoholic, man, and that's what I do. I drink and I use. And I had to keep doing it until I found something to replace that, which was the program, being accountable to other people and actually caring about that accountability.
Right. And once again, I mean, you do a far better way of explaining things like this than I do. So, and I thought, again, I thought it'd be a great question because I had that basic answer, but I'm glad you explained it in all those different terms too. Cause no, I have zero, like, okay. So we talked to Kathy has been one that's talked about this every once in a while. She admittedly, and she has said this, that she does not, she understands addiction. She understands what it does to people, being around, people like us and family members and whatever. But she's admittedly said, she goes, I don't understand what you guys are dealing with. And I thought, I mean, but she's been honest about that. She's cool about it, where it's just, you get the of it's willpower. Don't you want to quit? Like you just said that you wanted to, but you couldn't.
Right.
And people are like, you're not strong enough. You're this, you're that.
Mm-hmm.
People boo-hoo or poo-poo the idea that it's a disease and that it's more than just putting down a bottle and all those different things.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and I mean that's taken from, and that's our sister, by the way, Kathy is, and
Mm-hmm.
she's been close to this, and not just us, but our dad. We've got another family member that's sober, and so she's been around stuff like this and dealt with it, and she doesn't. She's admitted, and I love the fact that she just said, "I don't get it, but I support you guys, and I understand. I've seen what it does." But she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't understand. She doesn't understand the why, and I don't expect her to. But she's supportive.
And quite frankly, I'm happy she doesn't understand it because I care about her. And
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. Yeah. You get somebody, and that's a great way to put it. You get somebody that's like, man, I don't get it. And I'm like, oof. Yeah, that's a good point.
Good. I'm glad you don't. You don't want to fucking get this.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's the weird thing to say the least. But yeah, and you and I again on came in under different circumstances, even different mindsets, as we talked about.
Right.
You said again, you were beaten, you were done, you want to stop, you don't want to hurt anyone anymore, all those different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked into saying, just F this and fuck you, and I don't want to be here, and so it is just amazing that the differences, and I've said this before, but I think it's really cool. You and I have two very, very different perspectives, but the same mindset, and we end up in the same place. And I think that's part of it. That's why I talk to you about some of these things so often, is because I'm like, I don't get it.
Trust me, I don't always get it. 95% of the stuff I spew on this podcast, and quite frankly, in my life, I've gotten from other people. Right. These are not original ideas, kids.
Yeah, I think we said that at one point too, that we've stolen the majority of the things that that we talk about, which obviously it should be that way. So, there's one other thing, and I actually did a screenshot of this. We got a comment from somebody today on one of the posts, and she had said that she said listened in yesterday and enjoyed it. I'm coming up on step 9, and it's making a huge difference in my life. And I told her, I'm just like, it's awesome. I appreciate the comment and that sort of thing. And she even said, she said she's, coming to the realization that people can stay sober without the steps, but the true freedom comes from releasing resentment and fear and making amends. And then she said, love what you guys are doing, and huge respect. So I thought that was very cool. And it was, like I said, it was, she's coming up on that 9 step, and I don't know what episode she listened to, if we actually, if we talked about it, or if just the step is making a difference, whatever it is. I mean, the fact that she had, made a couple of those comments, so we've been getting a few of them, so here and there. And that's when I was talking to the individual from California about, because, we were talking back and forth about whatever with she mentioned the followers and this and that. She's like, oh, that would be she goes, it's nice to be able to help people. Because I told her that, I'm like, all this is cool, 800 and some plays, almost 1,000 followers, getting on and being able to, speak our minds, all wonderful. But I'll tell you what, out of everything, getting a message like that is worth every word that we've said,
Absolutely.
And then, and then that guy about making his bed. And then I reposted, the thing about your dish. I reposted that on Instagram, and I know I reposted on Facebook, but I did that on purpose, because I wanted to get it. I wanted to get it on both. But he commented on that too. He's like, come on, guys. He goes, I just got down to the point of making my bed. Now the dishes.
Yeah, now you got to do your fucking dishes, man.
Yeah, I just that was funny. That was funny, but I. For everyone out there, we appreciate the interaction. And I'm going to say we, but once again, I think we know. I mean, I'm handling the social media side of things for the most part, but Mike's on Facebook. So if you guys do get on our Facebook page, both of us can see and interact on there. It's just that Mike is not on Instagram. Doesn't matter.
I don't do the gram, man.
Don't do the gram, and that is what the cool kids call it, is the gram. So yeah, you got that right. But all right. So next thing, and there was another suggestion on here. Give me 1 second here. Oh, I know what it was. Another individual talked about, because we were, obviously we were talking about, sponsors and that sort of thing. And the question from that individual was, what do you do if you're incompatible with a sponsor, and what are guidelines for like people that you choose as being like, because a big thing now is having people that are, there's accountability groups online and that sort of thing. But if you
Mm-hmm.
have somebody that you're even paired with as an accountability individual, same deal. And like, what if a sponsor's not available, to you? So the main things is if you end up with a sponsor you're not compatible with, maybe he's not available for you, and then also just being paired with people that may not be the right individuals for whatever you're doing. Do you have thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, um, those are two very separate things. Being compatible with your sponsor and having your sponsor available to you. Your sponsor should be available to you, not constantly, not 24 hours a day. Don't expect this person to babysit you 24 hours a day. That's not what they're there for. They're there to help you work through the steps. So they should be available to you reasonably. Compatible? Who gives a fuck? Oh, my feelings. Yeah, good. Your feelings need to be heard, asshole. If you're lucky that you get along with your sponsor, cool, that's great, whatever. But for me, in early sobriety, I wasn't looking to make friends with a sponsor. I wasn't looking to have a best buddy in the world. I was, again, looking for somebody to show me how to work the steps, not work the steps for me, not buy me cigarettes, not get me a job, show me how to work the steps, and then I have to go work them. That's all a sponsor is. He pisses you off, good. He probably should piss you off. Yeah, if yes, if you're really having a problem, he's not showing you how to work the steps. You're not learning how to work this program. Yeah, you need somebody else. Other than that, he's not there to wipe your ass.
Right. And just so you know, you were cutting out just a little bit in that, but I think everything came through. But
I
just
hope
bits
so.
and pieces. Yeah, bits and pieces of what you're saying are just kind of cutting out here and there. Not a huge deal. But I agree with you, because the thing of it is, when I read the incompatibility part, I thought the same thing, because
Yeah.
the first thing I thought about is my sponsor here in Wisconsin. I mean, he's a dude, and I'm serious. He's a black guy with dreads, skinny dude from the South. I mean, he calls himself a Creole, and he's one of those ones that he was the only black dude in the club, only black dude in our meetings, coolest guy in the world, and I didn't care about any of that.
Right.
What I cared about was how he carried himself. I cared about the fact that he had 20 plus years of sobriety, the fact that he had 2 kids while he was sober. He was basically raising those girls on his own, girls too, and all the different stories he used to tell. He was a talker, which drove me crazy, but that's what I do, And I learned this very early on in this whole sobriety thing, that if somebody pisses you off, it's probably because there's something inside in them that's in you. But that's why I chose him. Now, our first sponsors were chosen for us, and you got a little bit more of that compatibility, because you mentioned that, that Tim was a musician, and I forgot about that part. I mean, my sponsor, the only thing that we had in common is we had the same name. I mean, he was a decent guy, he was a good guy. But take a look, and then if you go to accountability partners, now, worst case scenario, these days, you and I would be considered probably accountability partners, okay, which is fine.
Right.
I don't care. I do not care what you want to call us. And people, if you haven't looked at the website yet, look at the website. Okay, please look at our pictures.
Right.
Look at some of the earlier episodes, pictures of us standing together. We do not belong together.
Nope.
Everything that he's called me before, like we went over that. You went into the nerd, geek, square, blah blah blah. All those different things, and you just badass, bald ass, this and that, rock and roll pig, everything that you are. but yeah, we don't belong together, but so yeah, so we're not compatible on the surface, but we ended up being, so that goes back to that, judging the book by its cover, all the old things we were supposed to learn when we were kids, so all those things. really don't matter. And I'm glad you said that about the sponsor, because that was my same thought. When it comes down to the AA program, that is the one and only job of a sponsor, is to walk somebody through the steps. That is it.
Yep.
And now I know that, again, when we go back to Wisconsin versus Cleveland AA, probably California to Florida AA to wherever, it's different, Oh,
Right.
one difference too, like here, and I've heard it in other areas too. A lot of people, like we did our fifth step with a priest. A lot of people do their fifth step with their sponsor.
Right. Which is actually in the big book. So that's fine.
Right. The thing of it is that, and when I originally paired up with Carl, my sponsor here, because we were talking about stuff, same deal. He's like, I'm not going to try to walk you through the steps again, but he had said at one point to me, and I know you and I talked about this. He said, have you thought about redoing a fourth and fifth step? And I said, have I thought about it? Of course. Am I going to do it? I said, am I going to do it? No. And he looked at me and I said, but I'll tell you why, because this is what I was taught. But I said, worst case scenario, because he was talking as if like I was to do a fifth step with him. And I said, if I got to that point where I felt that I needed another fourth and fifth, I've said, no offense to you, Carl, I'm not doing it with you. I do it with a priest. But I said, that's the way I went, and that's the way I was taught, and that's where I'm comfortable. So there was a difference. He didn't take offense to that, but you said that exactly, and I just listened to your story the other day. And when you said, the fourth and fifth, if you do them right, you should never have to do them again.
If you work the proper 10th step, you're not building that shit up anymore that you have to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
back in Ohio 80 some years ago, figured that shit out. I'm not that smart.
Exactly. But real quick, and this just reminded me. So when Mike was up here, and not just recently, we went up here like 5-6 years ago, we were out kicking around doing something, and we were driving back, and I live in an apartment complex, and there's garages that are attached to the building. So we pull up in the driveway, and it was nice out. It was early September. Yeah, it was. It was Labor Day, so it was early September. Yeah. So we pulled up, and there's people outside. I don't know what they were doing, hanging out, doing whatever. But we're pulling up, and I got like neighbors that were outside chit chatting in the parking lot. And as we're pulling up, they're like staring at us. And my exact words were, "I'm like, what the fuck are they looking at?" And Mike says,
"They're looking at me."
and I started laughing, and I looked at him. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess they would be, wouldn't they?" It was fucking hilarious. But yeah, so that is, and I don't think about it, but Joe, our sponsor at Cleveland, used to say that. He used to call us the Odd Couple, and he'd hum the tune and all that stuff when we walked. I thought it was funny. So yeah, but yeah, I think that covers that on the sponsor part. And I agree with you 100%. Now, here's the other thing, and I know you're going to have I know what your opinion is going to be, but I'm just curious I want to sit back and laugh when I hear this.
Man.
So there are, and this is not the first time I've heard this, because I've been listening to the podcast. Again, just to recap, there's a lot of people out there that are. Some people are just alcohol free. Some people are, what they consider gray area. They're not sure which direction they're in. Some people are sober curious. So all these different things out there, or just people that want to get sober but don't want the label, of being an alcoholic. So, I mean, apparently, and again, I've heard about this on a couple of different occasions, but most recently it was a post on Instagram, and I'll tell you what I said after you speak about this. But the mindset has been getting rid of the word alcoholic, that it's outdated and it's not necessary in this day and age. Mike, this is like me. What I did was I just threw a match on an oil fire and I stepped back.
You know what? Words matter. Words mean things. I am an alcoholic. I am obsessed. I'm not obsessed anymore, but I was obsessed, and I have the physical allergy. I react differently. I am an alcoholic. I am different than a normal person. You cannot label me as anything else. I am not curious. I am not gray area. I'm a drunk and I'm a junkie. It's what I am, man. I just haven't drank or used in over 12 years. Because I do certain things, so I don't have to drink and use. But yeah, I'm an alcoholic, man. And you could soften it and you could say it's an outdated word. It's not. You know, there were words before alcoholic. Lush, toss pot was one of my favorite ones.
What was it?
Toss pot. Yeah, it's in the. I think that one's in the big book, or it's in one of the meditation books. It's a way old term for drunk, a toss pot. Yeah, you know, you can call it whatever the hell you want. Either you are or you aren't, and I am, and I don't care what you want to call yourself. If you have the obsession and you have the physical allergy, you're an alcoholic. Admit it. Move on. Surrender to the fact that that's what you are. And if you're not, fine. If you can stop on your own and not wreck your life and not be miserable, cool. But I can't.
Well, and you know what? And I knew it. And seriously, I was just when I wrote that or typed that out in my note, I was giggling when I was saying, I'm like, this is going to be fucking fun, man. Because I was just like sneaking up to the bear. I'm like, fucking poke.
Yeah,
but
it's not going to take much.
No, I know. But you know, number one, I agree. And the individual that had posted it, and she's actually, and I think it's her that's the author of it. I'm not going to call her out on here because I mean, everything that she's doing for a group of people is she's doing a lot of positive shit. There's been a book, she's got a podcast, she's doing a lot of good positive work. I don't want to take away from the work that she's doing,
right.
But so I follow her on Instagram, and when that came up about, okay, you know, now's the time and this long post, and I'm reading it, it's an outdated, it's whatever, and my comment was, it was nice, but it was very clear. I said, trying to remove a word is a bit extreme. And again, I was nice about it because I said, here's the deal. I said, you know, something along the lines of the same thing as you said. I said, I have no issue with the word. I am an alcoholic. I call myself that. And, and the other thing is, it's not a derogatory term. It's not an insult. And although I didn't say it on the post, I'm going to say it here. It's not a form of racism to call somebody an alcoholic, you know?
Right.
And that's when I was reading her response. I'm like, because of all the stuff that's going on in the country, and I get it all. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff. Everyone feels what you want to feel about any words and phrases and things and all that stuff. I'm fine. I'm not going to argue that. But you know, to take the word away, I'm an alcoholic. I know what I am. And you know what? I'll go as far as to say that I need the word. I need to know what I am. You know, and like if some doctor came up and said, you have this thing, it's eating away your body, and right now in the world there's no known cure. We're going to drip some things into your body. We're going to run you in here and like basically put you in a large microwave, but we don't want to call it anything. And the person's like, what the fuck, man? Tell me what I got, man.
Right.
You know, and how many times did Marty say that if, you know, people that are diagnosed with cancer, if all they had to do was, and I joked about it in one episode, I just got to go to some meetings, I got to read a book, and I got to be a nice person, and I'm all good.
Right.
If anyone with any other disease had that ability, you know, I mean, they would, as Marty used to say, they would bust down these doors and these walls to get in here.
Right.
You know, so I don't care if you, same as you exactly just said, I don't care if you don't want to call yourself that, but to take away the word is, in my opinion, not only ridiculous, but it's stupid. It's just, it's insanity, you know, because just because an alcoholic is an evil word. I'm granted it. It's got a stigma to it. And part of the reason that I'm not completely open on social media is because of that stigma, but it doesn't change who I am. I'm not going to go on social media and call myself a fucking gray area drinker and make it any better.
Right.
You know, so I agree with you wholeheartedly. So I thought that'd be kind of a fun topic because I just thought it was ridiculous. And back to the point too. So I talked to a couple of people that had mentioned that, and this just was another thought pattern, that had mentioned that, and this could be probably a whole episode. If we do something like this, what I want to do is I want to get some of our women sober friends from Cleveland to chime in on this, because the thought was in different areas of the country that women don't feel as welcome in an AA meeting, you know, as men. And I think that it could be that way. But I was telling one individual, I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. In Cleveland, I've never heard that from anyone, because how many women do we know that are sober? It's an ungodly amount.
Right.
And all the women that we know that are sober, I think all of them are involved in the AAA, not only go to meetings, have really strong meetings, strong sponsors, a strong bond, and they love the shit out of their AA.
Right.
So I don't think the problem is AA. I think it's the group that these individuals are in. So I just think it'd be for me, I think it'd be fun and informative, I think, for other people outside of the Cleveland area to see that, hey, it's not AA. I'm not trying to. If people don't like AA, I don't care. Do what you do.
Yeah.
Whatever, whatever. Seriously, whatever keeps you sober, I don't care. That's cool. You do you. That's the main goal, anyhow. But the thing, it blew my mind. I'm like, really? I said I've never experienced any females that we know that have felt alienated or outsiders or anything like that in an AA meeting, whether it's mixed or whether it's a women's meeting. But yeah, that was a whole other thing. So yeah, I mean, like I said, the alcoholic thing, I just thought that'd be interesting in and of itself. But yeah, you and I are on
definitely.
Imagine that on the same page again, right? So here's another thing, and it just happened to be the next thing that was written below the alcoholic thing. What are your thoughts on getting sober for somebody other than yourself? Number one, and then is it sustainable if you only do it for somebody else?
Personally, and everything I've been taught, no, it's not sustainable. Not at all. It was drilled into our heads over and over. We have to do this for ourselves now. That being said, a large part of my program, and we've said it a number of times here, I just don't want to hurt anybody else. So in that fact, yes, it is for the people around me. My sobriety is important to me for the people around me, but I couldn't prove this to myself over and over again. I can't get sober for somebody else. I can't get sober for her. I can't get sober for my kid. I can't get sober for my parents. I can't. I didn't. So there you go. It didn't happen. I hurt those people and I didn't get sober for them. I got sober when I didn't want to hurt them anymore. And that was where I had to turn it around on myself, and I had to get sober so I wasn't the asshole that hurt those people. I had to change myself so I'm not a bad person anymore. But no, I can't get sober for somebody else. I can't get sober to make my wife like me again. I can't get sober so my kids aren't afraid of me. That's a byproduct of me getting sober. It's like happiness. Happiness is not the goal. Happiness is a byproduct of me doing the right thing. So yeah, yes, I suppose you can put the bottle or the bag down for a while for somebody else, but I don't think it's sustainable at all, because eventually that's not enough. It's not enough. I'm going to pick up again, because I'm not changing myself. I'm not getting that byproduct of living the right way. That's my thoughts.
Yeah. And, that was my question, and it came up, I think, probably just listening to the podcast and sometime or whatever they were talking about. But because I thought about that. So again, going back to your story, you were done when you walked in. You went in with that mindset of not wanting to hurt your daughter. There was your grandfather involved, all those things. And I didn't necessarily come in for somebody else, but I didn't come in for myself.
Right.
So it was almost, I don't even know what I was for however long. And as you were just talking about that, because my next question to myself was, when did I make that switch? Because I know during those first couple of months, and I've told stories about my ex, my son's mom, and I knew what the consequence was if I drank again, and I was losing him. So I know for a fact that to begin with, I stayed a good boy, because I didn't want to lose that.
Right.
But somewhere along the way that switch came in. So could it have been, at that 9-month period when I had those couple of revelations that I talked about. Could it have been, because that's, I know at that point is when I really dug in. And at that point, I know that I never look back, and it's like, this is what I want now. So if I had to pinpoint that, that probably was where it was. But so maybe there was and I just came to that again, that realization once again, people, you just saw another light bulb came on, or that came on for me. But I didn't come in for anyone. I just came in because I didn't know what else to do or didn't have anywhere else to go.
Right.
And, just literally just kind of tagged along for probably those first 9 months. And then, at that point, got through that stuff. And then at that time, I know I dug in at 9 months, and I never looked back after that. But now I understand the fact of, I mean, yes, it's my kids, it's my family, it's all those sort of things. But I know you and I talk about this all the time, and it's told to us, anything you put before your sobriety is going to go away,
Right.
And sometimes you just got to sacrifice, and you're like, okay, I need to take care of me for a minute, or I'm not going to be able to take care of you,
Right.
So I agree wholeheartedly. I know there's a lot of people, it doesn't matter what brought you in, but at some point, at least our opinion, it seems, is that's got to switch, and it's got to be for you, or, it's just not going to work. So, yeah. But what about a pink cloud? And I thought about that too as we were yammering back and forth. Do you think you ever had a pink cloud? I mean, I got thoughts on that, but did you go through a period, do you think, where you were in a pink cloud period?
I think I did when I actually wasn't doing the program properly. My first few forays into sobriety. I'd put down the substances and, get that job and get it, whatever. And the pink cloud, for me, this is just hitting me. When I was still selfish and didn't give a shit. The pink cloud was, I'm feeling good. Look at me, I'm doing better. I'm feeling better because I'm not poisoning myself every day. That was, I had some pink clouds when I wasn't working the program, but was around the program. But when I came in this time and started actually working the program, I don't think I ever did get a pink cloud, the cloud gets a little bit pinker every day. And hopefully, by the time I shuffle off this mortal coil, it'll be pretty rosy. But it's this nice slow ascent, which is, I think, how it should be. Things get a little bit better. I'm a little more serene, a little more peaceful as I continue to work this thing. Not to say I don't have bad moments, because we talked about it last week. But but for the most part, deep down, I'm pretty serene and calm and peaceful, and that's that. I float on that. It's a constant thing.
Yeah, and I know I've mentioned this before, that I feel like every part of my life, since I got sober, has been of the sometimes slowly variety, and I do remember. Let me step back a little bit. I don't know if everyone knows what even the mindset of the pink cloud is, and not usually, but what happens to a lot of people when they first get sober, even whether they're working the program correctly or not, it's trying to, like you said, and I think you explained that perfectly. Number one, you're feeling better, you're getting some stuff back, all those, there's some things falling into place, and you feel really good. And then there's the other individuals that dive right into, I'm sober and I'm loving it, and want to stand on top of a building and cheer it and help and do all these different things. So there's all that sort of thing. And sooner or later, reality is going to punch you back in the face, and you're going to realize. And I don't mean that. Anyone who's newly sober, it doesn't mean that things necessarily get worse, but it gets real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but, absolutely. Yeah. Life happens, man. Everything is not wonderful because you're doing the right thing. The thing is, you can handle when it's shitty, because it's going to be shitty, but you can handle it, and you don't have to pick up, man. You don't have to medicate yourself. You have the tools to walk through the nonsense. And that's what it is. It's nonsense, death and sickness and pestilence and murder and rape and all the bad things in this world, and we're getting real good examples of it the past couple of weeks. But you know what? I keep walking and doing the next right thing. I'm going to be kind to the old lady at the store, even when I don't want to. If somebody walks in with a gun, I'll lie on top of her, try to take the bullet first.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that, and I like the fact that you had mentioned that over time it's gotten better, because it did. And I was actually, and this may surprise everyone, but I was getting pissed because I wasn't getting this whole pink cloud feeling, because I didn't get the flash. I didn't get the moment of clarity. I get none of that. And I'm like, at least I can get this fucking pink cloud thing that I hear about. Give me some fucking happiness and take this anger away from me. But the key was, I know, I had to work on myself, and I had to work on getting rid of that and dealing with it. So yeah, and like I said, these last couple of weeks, because my work situation, and on top of that too, I mean, in 3 weeks I'm moving into this whole new situation, which is, we don't have time to talk about all that right now.
Right.
I mean, I got some shit going on right now, and and part of it, every once in a while I sit back and I'm like, I can't fucking think straight, so sometimes I just sit down and I just do nothing because I have to, but I know how to do that now, whereas like I need like half a bottle of whiskey to get through whatever I'm feeling, but none of those thoughts ever came up, in being in a weird employment situation, and in this move that's coming up on me, and then, some family situations, just, again, you talk about illnesses and whatever the case may be, there's a lot of shit going on right now, but I've got all these tools. I got 12 years of practice, and worst case scenario, and this is the worst case scenario, if I run across something that I just don't know what to do, I know what to do, and that's to make a phone call or to reach out to somebody. We've talked about this before,
right?
And you know what? Part of it, and here's the other thing that I didn't share before, I was going to get to when I was talking about when I questioned my good mood, is I really look forward to doing this. This is like, it reminded me, right before we came on to do this, I'm like, this is like our Friday meetings used to be,
Right.
And we get home from work, we just change real quick. We're like, okay, we're off to the meeting, because then it was the meeting, it was the pizza, and then sitting our asses and doing nothing,
Right.
And in separate rooms too, when we finally lived together. But right. that's what this is now. And no matter what is happening at work, and no matter how stressful it is, I get to come home and I get to do this, because this is now, literally one of the highlights of my week, because I know if I got some shit on my mind, I get to talk to my friend, and then maybe, on top of that, who knows, maybe somebody, makes a comment like that, and something we happen to say, this rambling shit that comes out of our heads, it's like meant something. I don't know,
right.
But I'll tell you guys one thing. Anyone who's listening, and if you continue to listen, or if you listen to the past episodes, and we said this before, we're doing this to begin with. And this goes back to kind of what we were just talking about. You got to get sober for yourself. We're doing this for ourselves. Granted, the end result is it's wonderful if it helps other people. That's the warm, fuzzy feeling. That's our pink cloud maybe now, is if it gets to help somebody. But we're doing this because we need to, or want to. For us, I felt like I needed something else, and this is it, so it's awesome, but yeah, that was the other part, I think, of my good mood. I'm like, I get to go, and I did. I lit windows down, sunroof open, Foo Fighters on the way home. That seems to be my tough when I did that, but I'm like, I think that's my thing now.
Right. It's your happy place.
It really is. I fucking love the Foo Fighters, and I love warm weather. So
there you go.
So last thing, and I have no idea why this came up, but I was laughing when I thought about this. So you remember and now it's still the Brook Park Heating Center house now is now the women's house again, right?
Wait. Oh yeah. Jean Marie.
Yeah, that is Jean Marie. Okay, yeah. So back when we were in, do you remember when they got? I mean, and this happened in every one of the facilities at some point. Bed bugs got brought in. Either somebody was in a tell a bad donation, clothing or whatever it was. Bed bugs just happened. It wasn't, and we cleaned the shit out of these places. So
Right.
it wasn't because it wasn't clean. Somebody brought some
Yeah.
stuff,
Right. Right.
But it happened at that, and again, it was a women's facility. It must have been Jean Marie back at that time.
Yeah.
And rather than doing, and I remember this, and we were like really new. And Pete and I, 2 nights in a row, had to go over and I don't want to say guard, but I'm saying that we had to guard the house because nobody was there. It was unlocked. It had basically been, they abandoned it while they were, they had to get them someplace else so they can let all the shit basically die off, and then they had to get it cleaned out.
Right.
So our job was literally, we sat there all night. We took I don't even know, and this was a conversion van, not a cargo van. We got to go over in this conversion van. So we at least got to, sleep in a comfortable seat, but one of us had to stay awake. So I remember walking in that place because Marty's he goes, first of all, you got to go in there. You got to clean everything out of the refrigerator in the kitchen, any food items. So, I mean, Pete and I are digging the shit out of the refrigerator. Fucking disgusting. Because the power was off. They had all the shit off over there. But so we're doing all that stuff. It's get all that stuff done. And then he's like, you don't go anywhere else in the house. And so we did. We walked all the way through.
Well, of course.
So we're we got to go look around, there was nothing to really see. But because he's
but you were told you couldn't do it, so you did it.
Right, because we did. And then I remember then Pete and I are sitting out. We're sitting in the parking lot, and it was nice out. It was the summertime or early summertime. And Pete brought his laptop there with him, and I know we didn't have any internet connection, so I think he just had a bunch of songs on his laptop. So he's like, how are you on music? I'm like, I don't know. I said I'm decent. And he's like, what's best, whatever it was. I think it was 80s music or whatever he picked. And he's like, okay, we're going to do a contest. He goes, the first 3 seconds of a song lyric, and you got to name it. So we fucking sat there and played Name That Tune for an hour.
Nice.
But here's the other thing. Before we actually, again, we weren't supposed to go in there. We were walking along and the side of the house, and I walked up. So it was a window well, one of those steel window wells. And what it looked like is there was a piece of wood over the window well. So I went to stand on it to look in the window, and it wasn't wood. It was this piece of plastic. So, and it was deep. It was probably, it was at least 4 feet deep. So I bust through it and hit my knee and went down, and my whole leg went numb. So I'm sitting there, and I swear to God, I thought I broke my leg. And I don't know where Pete was. So I dragged myself out of there. I was sitting down for a minute, got up, and I was fine. I just bruised it up. But I'm like, Jesus Christ. Because, the first thing I thought about, Marty's going to fucking kill me.
Yep.
I'm like, man, I can't be limping when I come back because he's going to ask me what happened. But
right.
But that was just one of our, one of the little shenanigan things. But yeah, so rather than fire watch or night watch, yeah, we got to go guard if it was Jean Marie at that time or whatever it was. But yeah, it was no idea why that popped into my head. But I'm like, that was kind of a fun story. So, last thing real quick, and you and I can talk about this at another time, because we're already looking over an hour, but we got a message today from a guy, and he's somebody that's following us. He either owns or works for a CBD company. Do you know anything about CBD, or what are your feelings on that? Even the short answer.
Right. Well, it's a cannabis derivative. It comes from the marijuana plant. It's supposedly most of it doesn't have THC in it, which is the psychoactive component of marijuana. I drive a truck for a living, and we were told a couple of years ago, I remember this when it first started really hitting, they said, look, it's legal. We can't tell you not to do it, but we discourage it. And as a junkie and an alcoholic, I went, that's pretty good advice. I think I'll just steer clear of it. So, so that's I guess I don't know. I don't know. It could be snake oil. It could be, goddamn wonder drug. I couldn't tell you. I do know that I don't touch it. it is legal, and supposedly it doesn't show up on drug tests, and that's not what I'm about. Neither does Budweiser.
Right. Well, and it was so here. Just a short story back when I worked for the one company where I sold business phone service. And that was a few years. That was a few years ago when all this stuff started to pop up.
Right.
There's CBD stores. They popped up in literally almost like on every corner in the same deal. You know, I'm going into these businesses trying to sell them phone service, and I walked into a couple of them while they're doing demonstrations. And one of our reps used one of the. I had a rep with me, and she used some of the oil or lotion. You know, for like back pain and all that stuff, swore by it. And, you know, they're all these people are doing samples and doing whatever. And like, hey, you want to try something like that? I'm good. You know, because again, I don't know shit about this stuff. I just knew everything that you just said on the outskirts. I understood. Some had THC in it, some didn't. But this guy had just, he messaged us and he said, hey, I like what you guys are doing, this and that. Nice comment. And he said, would you consider doing any type of promotion or this and that, making some money on the side? My only answer was, I said, I'll talk to Mike. I said, he's part of this thing too. And I said, I'll get his opinion. We'll give you our opinion and go from there. So that's all it was. I don't, and again, it was just the thing of it is my first thought was if I have a question mark about it, it's not something we should probably do. You know, get involved with to be even behind something like that, because I don't want to personally, the way that I look at it, I don't want to promote something that could even be a question mark. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, I get a letter from Lynchburg, Tennessee. I'm going to ignore it.
Right. So if we get approached by an alcohol company, we should probably shy away from that.
Yeah, that would be my feeling.
All right. Again, that's what I thought, but it was just weird. I remember seeing, and again, he follows us. So I think we follow him. The reason I followed him is just because of the number of followers and people, this bunch of sober people that follow, and again, the exposure part of it. But
Sure.
Okay, that's cool. But yeah, one way or the other, it was just figured as I wrote that down as a question mark. I'm like, why not you and I just have an open conversation while we're out here?
Well, now it's got a period after it. So there we go.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I've still got, a few other things on here that we can save for next week. Actually, only a couple of things, but yeah, we're at like an hour 5 right now, almost an hour 6. So I think we're good. And except for that, like that beginning, I think both of us cleared up a little bit in the conversation. Yours was cut now, but I think we've actually been clearer in this last probably 25 minutes than we have in like 14 episodes, but which is weird. So anyhow, unless you got anything else, or I say it every time, but I think I know your answer. Mike, anything else on your mind tonight?
Not a goddamn thing.
All right, man. Then it is your time. As you said, just coming into this whole thing, you'd rather wing it. So feel free.
All right, man. Thanks for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. Be good this week. Be kind to the people around you. And as always, fuck off.
As always, that makes me laugh every single time. So, all right, brother. I love you. And obviously, you and I will talk soon. So, talk to you later, man.
Absolutely. Love you too, man. Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.